Good evening, Hawkeye Nation. Good day to be a Hawkeye, folks. The Hawkeyes going out to Terre Haute, Indiana, and defeating North Carolina. Not without a little drama at the end, but a win is a win, especially when we're talking about an NCAA regional. We're here to talk about it for the next 20 to 30 minutes. Hear it from the Hawkeye of the Storm. A couple of reminders before we get started. I'll tell you right off the bat, and I said this the other day after our Big Ten championship game. If you've watched this show before, you know typically I'm talking Hawkeye football or Hawkeye basketball. I am by no means an Iowa baseball expert. However, I am a big Iowa baseball fan. So bear with me if at times you say, oh, this guy's not much of an expert. Well, that's because I'm not. But I can facilitate conversation. I'll try to do that and watch the whole game from start to finish. Fabulous performance, I thought, from Marcus Morgan. Not perfect. And I think that's been the theme throughout the year with both Morgan and Brody Brecht. And of course, what a great finish for Luke Llewellyn. Will Christopherson comes in, struggles for an inning or so, or less than an inning. Jack Whitlock held down the fort for a while as well. But in the end, Marcus Morgan gets the win, and Iowa moves on to play Indiana State, the top seed in the region, or in the regional, I should say. And Indiana State had to fight past Wright State earlier today. So fascinating storylines, folks. I said a couple of days ago I would not be surprised to see Iowa win this regional. I stand by that comment. Of course, it's a double elimination format. So if Iowa loses to Indiana State tomorrow, which I don't know that they will, but if they were to lose to Indiana State tomorrow, they would likely face North Carolina again. I see North Carolina beating Wright State again. Wright State looked pretty good today against the Sycamores, but we shall wait and see. We've got a couple callers already in the queue. The number to call in on our phone line is 515-635-1601. That's 515-635-1601. 1601 if you want to chat with us, talk about the Hawkeyes win, ask questions. Perhaps you didn't watch the game. It was on ESPN Plus. So we can certainly facilitate whatever conversation you want to have about Iowa baseball. Be sure to hit that like button as well, folks. If you haven't subscribed here from the Hawkeye of the Storm, from the Hawkeye of the Storm, we'll try that again. Be sure to hit that little bell as well, because whenever we go live, you hit the bell. Whenever we go live, you'll get some notifications and some alerts. I didn't have the show scheduled early today, but usually I try to get a show scheduled a little bit earlier so you have a heads up. But be sure to do that if you have not already done so. All right, let's go to our first caller of the day. Mr. Tony Schneider is on the line. Tony,
hey, how you doing, Corey?
Doing good, man. You're used to waiting forever. You're right. You're first.
I guess. Yeah. Did you make it by chance down in Des Moines today? I don't know if you're a beer guy or not. Did you make it for any of that?
That's a good question. I would have made it down if it's not that I'm not a beer guy. I just had a lot going on today. I did see the Exile event today for warm beer, but no, I did not make it to Des Moines today. I was texting Brad. I did text Brad earlier today. I'll be anxious to see how that event was.
Yeah, it looked like from the pictures I could tell, on social media, people having a good time and whatnot, which is all you can hope for.
Great for the Swarm. Great for the Swarm. And by the way, let me just say this: great day for the Swarm. Great day for Iowa athletics. Let's just take a moment, Tony, to recognize the positive things that have happened, like the great things that have happened in the past couple of months with Iowa athletics. You talk about the Iowa women making the Final Four, making the national championship game. All right. Yes, they fall short. Then you get the wonderful news that Gary Barta is stepping down. And now you have Iowa baseball headed to a regional for the first time since 2017. They win their first game in the regional. Good position now heading into Sunday. So it's just good stuff all around.
Yeah. And I'm very optimistic about the chances we have with Grant Nelson, if we want to touch on the men's basketball team as well.
I was going to say that was actually my third point is, hey, if we can just if now Iowa basketball can just land the biggest name in the transfer portal, then what do we have to complain about? Yeah, I mean, they had a first-round exit, but we're going to be pretty excited watching it. Now, they got work to do because Baylor's heavily involved with Grant, and there's a couple other schools. Alabama's one of them that are – those teams know how to throw around the dollar figures, and I don't know that Iowa can quite compete with that based on what I know, but I can tell you Matt Gatens and Fran McCaffrey, they are working their tails off with this kid.
Yeah. And I don't want to take away anything from the baseball team. I went to a similar setup of a tournament. My cousin plays JUCO ball up in Alexandria, Minnesota, I'm sorry. And they had to go – it's a similar type setup as this is. And the biggest thing that I found out at that tournament that I think Iowa has that will make a huge edge for them this weekend is 3 starting pitchers that you can trust. And
pretty deep bullpen.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right. I mean, that's why I'll be intrigued to see who they go with tomorrow.
Yeah, they were even talking about that on the broadcast. Like, who do you go with, tomorrow? Do you go with Brecht or do you save him as your ace in the hole? I mean, it's not to say, it's Tyler, right? What's his last name?
Who are you talking about?
Number 3, the 3 starter. It's like an L with his. I forgot who the other starter is besides Brecht and Morgan. Langenberg. Yeah, I had the L part right. That's about it. But
I think they go Langenberg tomorrow because save Brody for an elimination setting. Why use him tomorrow? Why use him up tomorrow when you're going to potentially play an elimination game on Sunday?
Yeah.
I know they kept showing the draw today, but the double elimination is such a hard thing for me to grasp.
It is.
Times. Obviously, we know this. We know Iowa plays Indiana State tomorrow at 5 Central.
Correct.
Then you've got Indiana State Wright State playing North Carolina in the morning tomorrow at 11 a.m. The loser of that game's done. The winner of that game then would play the loser of Iowa and Indiana State. And, of course, the winner would go on to the regional finals, and they would play the winner of that elimination. So You could potentially have. I mean, Iowa's got at least 2 more games left. You could potentially have 3 more, but you prefer to only have 2, and that means you only have 2 because you're winning the next 2.
Yeah. And winning the first one sets everything up. In this type of format,
right?
It sets everything up because you don't have to go back for the early, start. And they mentioned on the broad. Did you watch it? You said or not?
Oh yeah, start to finish. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. They even mentioned on the broadcast that this could be the hottest by temperature region, even compared to the South.
And it's humid. We have. Yeah. You probably got that up in your part.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, it's
dry. We've had no precipitation. I mean, we're almost going on 2 weeks without barely any rain. So it's.
Yeah. Well, I know there's storms in the forecast here again tomorrow in places. I don't know what the Terre Haute format looks like. I don't know what the format.
I think it's the 90s again.
Yeah, it's going to be in the 90s. I just don't know. I mean, what happens if this is something that me not being a baseball guy, quote unquote, I don't know what happens if they encounter a bunch of storms tomorrow. Like they just push everything.
They just keep trying to push it back and try to stay on the day schedule as much as possible.
As super regionals, again, I haven't looked down the line. I'm asking you as somebody who's calling into the show, I should know, but Tony, I'm assuming super regionals are then when?
I'm guessing. I don't know. I'm guessing next weekend would be my guess because it's a best of 3 series. And, college always plays the Friday, Saturday, Sunday for your main game. Because, sometimes they play those games during the middle of the week. But I would bet it would be next Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So then the teams can line up their starters and all that stuff.
And I see
there's no real rush.
See the question here in the chat from, let's see. Now I lost it. I've got a lot of comments here. That's good news. Bryce, what's the final score? 5-4. Yes, it was 5-1 heading into the 9th. And I'll tell you, this is my perspective as a guy who is an Iowa baseball fan, doesn't watch a ton of Major League Baseball or college baseball anywhere else. Iowa seems like the type of team where it's very, I don't want to say they're a fragile team because they're pretty good all around. The commentators were talking about that tonight. But it seems like, at least these last 2 games, we've seen Iowa in a couple innings get into some sticky situations. They basically play it cool. They are cool, calm, and collected for the length of these ball games, with the exception being like 1 or 2 innings. And if they can play damage control in those 2 innings, then they're fine. And they almost got into a very, very sticky situation in the 9th inning there. And boy, Luke Llewellyn, give that kid a couple of gutsy pitches there at the end. And you always want to end it on a strikeout, and he was able to come in there and play hero. It was 5-1, and they brought 3 home and had a chance. I mean, they had a chance to win this game. I mean, did they have 1 on base or 2 on base there at the end? They had I know the winning run was at
2.
Okay, so
it was second and third because there was a wild throw to home when that kid scored on the hit, and then those runners advanced second to third.
Game-winning run was in scoring position. So think about I'm right. Game-winning run was in scoring.
Yeah.
So, kind of a crazy drama-filled game, and let's not forget that 4th inning as well. And I believe, that was Marcus Morgan. That could have easily been a nasty inning. I mean, he got out of trouble there, gave up 1, but had bases loaded in the 4th, and so those two innings were tedious to say the least. But they got it.
You answered my question. I was going to ask, are you much of a Major League guy? Because I follow Major League Baseball as well. The pace of this game is dreadful compared to the new rules that Major League Baseball has, with no pitch clock. Oh, it's a slog.
So I watched that. I felt like this game flew by. I mean, it ended at 9:15, but I mean, it started at it's 3 hours and 50 minutes. Is that a long game?
Well, for baseball this year. I don't know if you know all the rule changes in Major League.
I've heard some of them, but again, I don't follow it enough to.
This game just seems like a slog compared to the new pace. I mean, they're in 2 minutes and 25 seconds or something like that in between innings. You have to make your approach or start the wind up every 15 seconds. And if you don't, it's a strike for the pitcher. And if the batter is not engaged, Or no, yeah, it's a ball for the pitcher if the pitcher doesn't, become engaged, and it's a strike for the batter. If they're not, the batter has to be no more of this timeout adjusting, blah, blah, they're getting them going. And they're getting games in like 2:30, 2:45. I mean, 3 hours for a major league game nowadays it seems like it's taken forever. So and then you have to pitch to 3 batters. So no more of the, they had that guy come in, he got the double play ball, and then, okay, now North Carolina brings another reliever in, and then they bring another reliever. And I mean, I get it. They're trying to win the game. I'm not complaining about that. Like, that's well within the rules, but that's just how slowed down it is. And I'm just comparing it to how we've had many talks about the differences between NBA and college basketball. And this is another difference between Major League Baseball and college baseball.
What did you think, Tony, of what did you think of Marcus Morgan today? Were you was it Hughes that said it, or was the play-by-play guy that said it that it's very accurate? He's effectively wild. Yeah. He and Brody are very different, right? They're very different pitchers.
Brody's more of a power pitcher. Yeah.
He is, and they both have control problems. But it's interesting how Danon described it, because with Marcus, he gets up there and sometimes his wild pitches, if you will, actually helps him, because he's so – I think the easy way to describe how he pitches and how batters have to kind of figure him out is he's so unpredictable. He's just so unpredictable. He's hard to hit.
And there was such a difference between Morgan and I forgot the guy who ate up the middle innings. Wasn't Christoph? It was the guy. What? Whitlock. Yeah, Whitlock. Yeah, and I mean, you could see it the first few batters where they were just off kilter, just because the different approaches, that both pitchers had. Someone said something in the chat. I was going to say all the games are on ESPN Plus. I don't know if you've mentioned that.
ESPN Plus.
So the whole weekend.
Network. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think we're going to get anything on the major ESPN.
Well, you will eventually if they keep winning.
Yeah, but not for this week.
I don't know this. I've had ESPN Plus a long time. What are the options for people who don't have ESPN Plus? Can you get free trials of ESPN Plus?
No, I think it's kind of similar to that. You know how you do for the early season basketball games? You can pay $9.99 a month, so you can pay $9.99 for the first.
You know what? If I have to pay $9.99, you're going to.
And you get how many games?
At least 2-3 games for a regional.
Yeah, and you might need it for next weekends, because I mean, let's face it, they'll be facing if they advance and if things hold the form, they'd be facing what would be a 6 seed in Arkansas. I think, is that how that line up number wise, or are they?
They'll end up going against the winner of the Fayetteville region.
And I would bet that would be on the lower end of what ESPN would want to put on their networks.
Yeah, you'd know better than me.
You probably. Well, I mean, I'm just guessing you would get a second weekend if they advance of ESPN Plus. Yeah. So the games next weekend would probably be on ESPN.
And I will give ESPN Plus credit. It is no Big Ten Plus.
No,
it's a lot better than Big Ten Plus. And I remember the Iowa-Kansas State women's basketball game earlier in the year.
Yeah.
There were some serious audio issues, and this was fantastic today. I loved having Danon Hughes on the actual call. Like, that'd be my one criticism of Big Ten Network. Put him in the booth. Like, I mean, to me, he's the kind of guy who I know they weren't actually there. That was the only thing I'd be critical of. They didn't actually have them there in Terre Haute, which doesn't make sense. No, they were
doing that. Oh, jeez.
One guy had his bedroom behind him.
Oh, I didn't. Every commercial break, I always try to go do something. I don't pay much attention.
His bed sheet behind him. I know it's weird. I do like Danon Hughes on it. He is such a great person. And I'm going to get Danon on this show. I've actually talked to Danon in the past, and we were going to get him on at some point. Didn't work out. I want to get Danon back on here once baseball's done, and we can talk baseball. We can talk football. He's a guy I want to get on the show. He's just a great ambassador to both sports.
So, DeReal's correcting. I don't want to say correcting us in the chat, but live. Arkansas is a 3 seed. And I don't know who your provider is, Corey. What do you have, like satellite, cable, YouTube TV?
Yeah, we stream.
You stream? Because it was on the ACC network, but I don't get that with my cable package. So I had to use ESPN.
I don't even know if I get it with my cable package, but I know I have. So James in the private chat just brought up, if you have the Hulu, Disney Plus, ESPN Plus package,
you get it for free. Yeah,
all for one price with a bundle. That's what we
Yeah.
have. So
that's what I have as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think it comes with like my cell phone plan or something like
and
that.
it's
That
like,
I get the
if you
ESPN.
have Disney Plus, it's like almost nothing
Yeah.
to add on the
ESPN.
package deal. Yeah, the ESPN.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but yeah, this sets up nicely, like I said, that we won the first game, and it'll be interesting. I haven't even looked on Twitter or social media to see if they've even thought of announcing, like we mentioned, who would it be tomorrow, if they go with Brecht, or if they, I haven't seen anything. We mentioned that a few minutes ago. Like, I haven't seen anything that someone, and I don't know when they'd announce something like that.
I don't even know when do you need to announce it. It's kind of like announcing.
You need to announce it, like the pitchers know. I guarantee you, Brecht and
why tip your? I've never
Yeah.
I understand, being a good sport, all that, but like part of gamesmanship is being unpredictable, and I've never understood why we have to release depth charts 5 days before a football game. I don't understand why you got to announce a starting lineup before a basketball game. Like, keep the other team guessing. I don't understand why do they need to know if Iowa's sending out Brecht or Langenberg? My guess is those two guys they're going to have both of them scouted, obviously, but why tip your cap on that? They're so different. They're such different pitchers, and Brody is such a unique talent. I just don't know why you'd give that away a day in advance, but I don't know. We'll see. I will say the only advantage Indiana State has is they're going to get a little bit longer rest than I.
And they're sleeping in their own beds.
True.
There's something to be said. There's something to be said for that.
And I'll be intrigued to see. I mean, it was clearly an Iowa heavy crowd.
Oh yeah.
I'll be intrigued to see. What are you drinking there, by the way?
Oh, it's Farmhouse Ale.
Farmhouse Ale. Where is that brewed?
South Dakota, up here in South Dakota. It's
cool. But no, I'll be intrigued to see what type of crowd shows up at that game tomorrow. Like, it's gonna be packed. My guess is it'll be packed. I don't know what kind of support Indiana State, that program, the fans have for that program, but I mean, heck, they're a top 16 seed overall in this tournament. My guess is there'll be plenty of Sycamore fans there. There'll be plenty of Iowa fans who went out there for the weekend, and good for them. It should be a lively crowd. Fun game under the lights tomorrow.
And since it is under the lights and it's a 6 p.m. start, any Iowa fan that was maybe thinking of making the trek over, you could wake up and go. I mean, the game doesn't start till 5.
I think Terre Haute is, what did we say, 7 hours away from Iowa City, something like that.
Something like that. Yeah, it's not too bad of a drive if you wanted to.
Drive. Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
Could I just close on my thoughts on Grant Nelson? Or
sure. Yeah, Grant Nelson. Nelson, North Dakota State big that we talked about it. I give Doug, ironic, we've got Doug's comment up here on the screen. Doug is the guy who, several months back, I think he's the guy who brought up Grant Nelson and said, hey, if this guy enters the portal, I sure hope Fran pursues him. Well, what do you know? He enters the portal kind of late, enters his name into the NBA draft, withdraws it because I guess he was not very impressive to NBA scouts and workouts. And, he's a 7-footer who can score at every level, extremely long, really high upside. He's probably, my guess is there's going to be a learning curve, just simple fact that he's never played at this level. He's played at North Dakota State, but we saw a guy like Philip Rebracha transition from North Dakota to Iowa somewhat without a hiccup. Grant is probably the highest. I think he's rated by On3 and a lot of those recruiting sites as the number 1 portal prospect available. Yep. And Iowa's in on him, Baylor's in on him, Alabama's in on him. And based on what I've been told, Iowa is solidly in his top 4 and maybe in his top 2. Now the next step is getting him on campus. But he did take his name out of the NBA draft.
The thing that I heard was he'll be visiting in 2 weekends because they're waiting for the students to get back to campus. So they're putting off his visit to then.
Here's why I pause on that, Tony, is you and I both know now with NIL being such a pull. I mean, like Caleb Brown, perfect example on the football side. He's scheduled to take a couple of visits, and he never ends up taking them because Iowa convinces him to be. And I'm not saying it was solely because of NIL, but you asked Brad Heinrichs, a lot of it was. So, what kinds of offers is Grant Nelson going to get between now and whenever he's scheduled to visit?
I think a big difference there, though, is this is a 1-year thing with Grant. He only has 1 year. And
but, Tony, they're throwing money at him. You don't think people
they are? They are. But I just think that Iowa, this is the only kid they're after right now. They're not going after anybody else. Alabama, I think Florida State, I heard, is out of the race. It's down to 3. Florida State has pretty much pulled themselves out of the race. Alabama is throwing their net at like 2 other different guys plus Grant. And then Baylor just got a commitment from a big-time guard, and they're hosting somebody else this weekend that's a big. So we are focusing all our energy on this. Can I just think Midwest kid, he knows, I know Philip and him are probably friends, but not like close, because they played the same conference together and stuff like that. Not the same school, but the same conference. I just think there's a lot of things in Iowa's factor.
But Philip's gone. First of all, Philip's
gone. No, he's gone. He's gone. So,
I'm not saying
I feel very positive about this just because of other factors.
BJ Mack.
Yep.
South Carolina over Iowa.
But do you know where BJ Mack grew up and where that was close to home?
Sure.
But
I'm just saying, I can also tell you that money is so a big deal for these kids.
It is. But I think
these high-end prospects. It just is.
I just feel that Grant is looking bigger picture and how much of a focal point.
Grant, he cares about us as fans, doesn't he? He wants.
He does. He does. Well, no, I just feel he's a good middle. I mean, I'm not trying to say anything like BJ Mack was not a Midwest kid. Okay, the other kid that they lost out was not a Midwest kid. Grant is a Midwest kid. Jordan Meyer, yeah, he wasn't a Midwest kid. Minor, yeah, he wasn't a Midwest kid, and I don't even think he got on campus. But Grant's a Midwest kid, grew up in small town North Dakota. He said, I've read some quotes from him. He said he wanted to stay close to home when he got his recruitment. He didn't want to expand. He wanted to stay close to home, so that's why he chose to go to North Dakota State and didn't expand his recruitment. I just feel family, the closeness, and the role, Alabama and Baylor are guard-oriented. We're not guard-oriented. Whether we want to, let's call a spade a spade. Iowa's not a guard-oriented team. They put bigs in the pros. Perfect fit for him. Well, I mean, you got the Murrays and Garza.
The Murrays are bigs. The Murrays are bigs.
Well, they not the front line. They play the front line. They play the same position as Nelson. Okay.
So
just work with me a little bit here, Corey.
I'd be devil's advocate. I work.
No, that's fine. Yeah,
I'm being devil's advocate. We say, well, Iowa puts bigs in the NBA.
Last 3 years,
one guy who is stuck, and his name is Keegan Murray. He's only been in the NBA 1 year. Luka Garza is back and forth between the G League and I love Luka, but I'm just saying if we're hanging our hat on, well, we got Luka Garza to the next level. Luka Garza was a phenomenal college player, but he has not proven himself at the NBA level yet. He's not, or he'd be a full-time guy.
Would you agree that Chris is a guaranteed first-round pick?
Probably a first-round pick. I mean, but a first-round pick doesn't even guarantee you that he's going to be a guy that sticks. We've seen first-round picks.
Oh yeah,
league. So,
but you just want to get him drafted. That's all. That's all the kid wants.
I am all for. Aaron White he got drafted, never played a second in the NBA. I am all for Grant Nelson. Believe me, I just have been. Let me give you the fan in me briefly, Tony. I've been disappointed so many times with basketball recruits, whether we're talking about Tyler Ulis or Xavier Foster or DJ Carton or BJ Mack or Jordan Minor. I mean, or what's the big kid that went from Liam Robbins? I mean,
from Minnesota, yeah.
The kid that was the athletic phenom, what was his name? Ended up going to Minnesota and he blew out his knee before the season. Parker Fox. Like all these guys that there's hype and certain people in the media obviously want you to click and I got a VIP story to scoop on this kid. He's interested in Iowa. Pay me for views, whatever. But I mean, like, I am just very hesitant with basketball. I still think there's some NIL issues with basketball that need to be figured out that aren't necessarily as big of an issue as football, whether you like it or not. And I just, I hope if they can get Grant Nelson, sign me up. Like, that's going to be, I still question defensively at times, right? But I look at that, man, you got two bigs that can score, man, like Cricky and Nelson together. And then you add in Bronze as a guy who can kind of filter in for defensive minutes and whatever. You can figure out, who's playing in the true freshman class. Does Price Sanford play some? I think he probably will. With Aaron Eulis now gone, I'm probably going to get some minutes out of Brock Harding. I don't know that Logi. If they get Grant Nelson, my guess is Dembele red shirts. I'm just guessing on this. And then what happens with what's his face? Owen Freeman.
Mulvey. Well, I'm with Mulvey.
Well, Mulvey. Yeah, Mulvey's another one.
I thought that's the name you were trying to come off the top of your head was Mulvey. Like, hey, like the person says, quit trying to rain on my parade, Corey. No, but you always bring the realism. You. So I appreciate that. But I mean, I could have went through with all those guys. I really didn't feel positive about most of those guys you mentioned, honestly, recruiting wise. There's just one thing or another with the Mac or with the. I mean, there's some of them like the Liam. He had to pull to Minnesota. Mac was close to home. I just feel everything is working in our favor on this one,
except the biggest criteria.
This is the NIL,
which is NIL, and I don't know that that's.
But how many of these schools this late in the game have blown through that NIL?
I bet you there's a lot of money. I mean, there's a lot of money around Alabama athletics and around Baylor athletics. Now, a lot of that money is probably filtered to football for Bama, but Baylor's not afraid to play dirty. We know that.
No, we
literally.
Yeah.
They're not afraid to.
I mean,
Anyways,
but I'm hopeful. I'll let you get to other callers. And are you going to do this the rest of the nights or you don't know?
Well, I'll try. Let me just be quite frank with you. And it was James that messaged me earlier today. I would love to do this basically whenever I can after Iowa, especially NCAA tournament games. Like I want to. And this is going to sound really, really selfish, but we have to have views. We have to have people watching. And I know we got 60 some people watching right now. I appreciate everybody being here, and I hope people will share the stream out on social media. But if you understand how YouTube works, if we put out live streams that do nothing, it drags the entire product down and drags the channel down. So I want to do these shows. And I preface everything I say on here, Tony, by saying I am not a baseball guy, but I can host a show and try to facilitate conversation. But so I know I'd love to. I hope we can get the support here, and hopefully we drive this into a super regional. That'd be a fun June.
Yeah, because then you have guaranteed three games. You win this weekend, you get not guaranteed. You have a best of three. So you'd have Friday, Saturday, Sunday. If you win the first two, then you don't worry about the third.
If you win the best of three, then we're looking at a trip to Omaha. So,
and if you think the crowd was loud tonight,
can you imagine the crowd over in Omaha? We know what it was like over the Big Ten tournament.
For the Big Ten tournament, Hawkeyes will drive over.
Yeah, absolutely. So. All right, Tony. We'll see you tomorrow night.
Will do.
Thank you, sir. All right, folks. Yes, I saw a couple comments earlier. I know we kind of just ran through. We've got James waiting on hold. But if you're just joining us, Iowa defeating North Carolina, final score of 5-4 in the Terre Haute Regional. First game for the Hawks. The other game earlier in the day, which is also televised on ESPN+, Indiana State and Wright State. Indiana State needing a late push, I should say, to get over the hump, winning that game 6-5. So North Carolina will play Wright State tomorrow morning in the regional in an elimination game. Then the Hawkeyes will play the Sycamores at 5 Central Time on ESPN+. And, of course, both those teams are 1-0, so not an elimination game. So it'll be intriguing to see what Rick Heller and company decide to do with Brody Brecht. Will they bring him out tomorrow? Will they bring out Ty Langenberg and save Brody for a Sunday game? We'll have to wait and see. But again, kind of running quickly through the storyline this evening. As I mentioned, Iowa struggling in really just 2 innings. The 4th inning, Marcus Morgan kind of hit a wall a bit, escaped, bases loaded in that inning, gave up 1 run. But Iowa entered the 8th inning up 3-1. They sat on 3 runs, which they got in the first 2 innings combined. They sat on those 3 runs throughout almost the length of the game. They add on 2 more in the 8th inning, and then that 9th inning push by North Carolina. Iowa runs through, I think, 3 pitchers in that ninth inning, I think, if my memory serves me correctly. And then it was, of course, finished off by Luke Llewellyn, who is the younger brother. Younger brother? I think I'm correct in saying that. Younger brother. No, actually, older brother. Older brother, I think, to Max Llewellyn. Maybe they're a year apart. Max Llewellyn, of course, a defensive end for the Hawkeye football team. So kind of an interesting storyline, guys, from the Des Moines area. So let's get to our next caller, James, who's been waiting on hold patiently. James, welcome to the show.
How you doing?
Doing good, man. How are you?
Another game to make you nervous. They like to make you nervous a little bit sometimes.
It's fun, man. I
mean, it's fun. I'm happy with 1-0.
Sometimes when you have a game sitting at 3-1 for 2.5 hours, people would, that's a boring game. But it wasn't a boring game.
Well, see, in my head, the way I was thinking was like, and it almost didn't work out this way. But the way I was thinking was like, the way we were pitching at that point, when I was thinking it, I was like, okay, if we can get 1 or 2 more runs, we're fine. I mean, obviously that worked out that way, but I mean, like, it almost did, you know what I mean? But like, I'm saying, like, in my head, it was like, if we can get 1 or 2 more runs, we're fine because we were pitching so well. And then I feel like, obviously, going to Christopherson, I think is his name.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like if we would have pitched strikes, we would have put ourselves in a lot better situation. We just walk a lot of people. And we have all year, so it kind of hurts us.
And I thought Christopherson was throwing, for lack of a better term, just a bunch of sitting ducks. He was
throwing too many easy strikes. He was just trying to get it over. He wasn't like trying to like.
He was giving good looks at pitches, and I'll say this. I mean, baseball, as we said the other day, baseball is such a game of inches, but these little plays, these individual plays that you look back on and think, man, good thing they made this play. The Honar double in that first inning. You had 2 outs at that point. You've got 2 guys that end up scoring. So double down the left field line, 2 RBI strike for Honar. That individual play that flips the script.
Well, that and to me, the one where we put Mitchell in the 7th or 8th, I think it was, and they hit the line drive right to him. He threw it to first to get the double play.
Yeah.
I think that was big too because you don't know what's gonna happen with the runner on first as well. They just put him in the game, so
yeah, absolutely. And I thought the Honar play to second that was reviewed on the attempted stolen base. I don't remember I think it was the North Carolina shortstop that was on.
Yeah, it was.
It tried to steal, and it was reviewed. Great play by Honar, and they mentioned. I love the fact. This is another reason I love having Danon Hughes in the well, not in the box, but commentating this game is because he provided some insight on the difference between an infield that's artificial versus a traditional.
You slide more.
It's harder to stop on a slide, and a guy's trying to steal second, and he good on Honar for keeping his glove on the runner because guy's hand came off and he had to switch hands and on
then you see it later with us. You see it later with us too, and I forgot who stole second, but he took his glove off the minute he switched his feet, and then he switched his feet back and put the glove back on, and it was like in that split second he was safe because he wasn't tagging in that minute.
And it's almost an impossible play to call on the
field.
Like, that's
you can't really see it, especially the one where Honar tagged him out because it was like behind the play. So like when I'm looking at, he's looking to the front, it was like the back end of the play. So you didn't really see as much. But I feel like in general, we also got to talk about that Heller bunt, the call for the bunt and for Heller too, to make it 5-4 or to make it 5-1 at the time, which technically won the game, by doing a sacrifice. And I think that's something, talk about something Rick Heller's always done. But that's something that maybe at that moment might have actually won us we don't look at it, but now you look at it as that might have won us the game. Like,
and perfectly executed. I mean, people think bunting is easy. It's not always easy to pull off an exceptional bunt like that. And
I don't know who was on third. Was it Honar?
I don't know who came in on that. I can tell you here
because I'm saying it might have been.
It was Huckster.
Oh,
Wasn't it
Hucksdorf. Yeah, it was Hucksdorf.
Huck?
But yeah, no, I'm saying he like let off perfectly and had the perfect distance he want to. Because sometimes if you you don't really right away, you could throw it home and get the out. But he was running right
Exactly.
away, so
No,
you can't get it out.
it's a precise, detail-oriented play,
For sure.
and
But some you could tell they practice a lot. So
yeah,
but I like he was saying earlier, Tony, like Tony was saying, I feel like it's gonna be interesting to see who they go with tomorrow. I agree with you. I think Langensburg probably is the option, but it's also like I don't know. You just never know what you're gonna do. But I feel like they go Langenberg and then you go Brecht. This is the last guy because I feel like Brecht is your safer option in the last game if you need him.
well, it's clear that Iowa has one of the more balanced bullpens, and that's a good news. I mean, we saw Iowa beat Indiana the other day. Breck comes out and really struggles last 2 innings, and they make a switch and they manage to find a way to come back. So I mean, like this is not normally something we talk about, especially with Iowa football, Iowa basketball. Is this insane? Well, Iowa basketball maybe to an extent, but insane depth is not normally something we talk about. But Iowa, compared to a lot of these teams, I mean, North Carolina is a perfect example. They do not have the pitching. They don't have the pitching, but they don't have the pitching depth that Iowa has. And Indiana State's obviously a lot better. I don't have a scouting report on Indiana State. I did not watch them.
We played them earlier in the year.
Yeah.
Then we beat them. It was like one of the first games of the year. I think we beat them. But obviously, that's early in the year. And baseball is a sport you never can know. So I'm not saying that just because we beat them means we're going to beat them. Obviously, you know that I'm not that kind of person. But I'm saying, like, in general, like, we know we can, if that makes sense. We know we can beat them. So I think that gives you a little bit more confidence, too. But that also is going to give them more fire in beating us because we beat them early in the year. So it goes both ways. But one thing I saw, too, is, like, what did you think about them bringing Marcus Morgan back out? Because like he struggled, and then they brought him back out for one more inning. And it was like I understand what they were trying to do, but it was like I don't know. He just was struggling so much. It kind of was scaring me when I was like, I don't know if that's the right choice because he was struggling there, and then
he wasn't giving up runs.
He wasn't, but he was walking people in. You're one bad pitch away from giving up a 3-run, 4-run, or 3-run home run or grand slam because you're walking people.
Yeah,
that's the only scary part.
He walks a lot of people. I mean, that's just
Yeah,
kind of
he
what
does.
he does.
He played. So I don't know if you know how this works. There's a college team. I'm from the Waterloo area. There's a college team up here. The Waterloo Bucks, like college kids play for them, and Hucksdorf and Marcus Morgan played for them last year. So like you guys see Marcus Morgan pitch a little bit. He walked a lot of people in that as well. So it's kind of like you kind of know he is what he is when it comes to that. But
he's a talented kid, and
it works out. I mean, I find it cool how they said about his 3 offers too. Like that man could have went to play whatever he wanted to play in college, and he chose baseball at Iowa. And I think that's a cool retrospective of it too. But
real quick, do you remember? And I had to look it up to remember. You remember what happened at the end of that Iowa Indiana State game? Went into extra innings. Do you remember how it finished in the 11th?
No, I just remember we won. I don't remember.
Walk-off grand slam by Kyle Hucksdorf.
Yeah, and I mean, one more thing before I get off, and
Langenberg pitched.
Yeah.
So,
well, then to me, I mean, I'm not saying don't pitch Langenberg then, but like they already know what Langenberg could throw. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's not a good thing. You know what I'm saying? You never know in that retrospect. I'm not a baseball person, but one more thing is like, first off, thanks for being on. I didn't know if you were gonna be on because you said after that you said I didn't know, so I was like, I didn't know if you'd be on, and I seen your thing. So
well, I made it, and I appreciate you showing up.
But yeah, I always try to show up. But anyways. It's fun to see us get a win in the tournament, no matter what, and especially for Howard because all he's been through, he deserves it. I mean, every coach deserves it, obviously, but he definitely deserves it with all he's been through, and he's had a lot of guys, and with the whole gambling thing going on, and Keaton not being there, and I know they're trying to do it for their guy as well, and that's one of the better players that we don't talk about not being there. And obviously, I'm not blaming him for anything. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just saying him not being there in one of your leaders is a big thing for them to step up the way they are, and hopefully they can keep it going. And no matter what, we'll tune in at 5 p.m. At least I haven't got to wait till. At least I haven't got to watch it at 11 a.m. I can do a little bit of stuff before I watch the game at 11 a.m. So,
I'm just happy it's an evening game, and like I said, it should be a great crowd with Indiana State fans and Iowa fans there under the lights.
Yeah, you talked about Indiana State fan base. When I was in school, my junior and senior year, we had this coach. His son played at Indiana State for baseball, and I know back then they were very loyal fan base. So my guess is it wouldn't have changed. be my guess from then to now. So my guess is it hasn't changed. So they're probably as much loyal as they were then as they are now. So
yeah, no, it should be a good one. And being here, hopefully talking about a win. Boy, wouldn't it be great to say beating North Carolina and Indiana State back to back and putting a lot of
what do
teams
you
on
think?
the rope. So
What do you think about North Carolina? One more thing. What do you think about North Carolina being in that? It's kind of weird. It's like you have a team from Iowa, you have a team from Michigan, you have a team from Indiana, and then they throw a team from North Carolina in there. Like, do you think that's just weird, or do you think it's just the way it worked out?
I'm not a very good
I know because I
source
seen
for
the
seeding
I
because I don't
seen
know how
the
they seed. I don't know how they seed. I mean, I know how they seed men's
yeah.
basketball, but I really don't understand the seeding process for
Well,
baseball.
I was saying I seen the North Carolina one where it was UNC Wilmington was playing, I think NC State, and then Coastal Carolina was playing somebody from like that region too, and I was like,
Great
I was
value.
like,
Sir. I was answering Tony's question here, James.
you're good. But I was like, that's kind of weird how you have like three teams from North Carolina, and then a team from like Coastal North Carolina, and then you throw Iowa in a region with, or you throw North Carolina in a region with Iowa, a team from Michigan, and a team from Indiana. But
I
don't know.
I don't know. Maybe they wanted to. Hey, we got a couple of really storied basketball programs, right? You got Indiana State with the Larry Bird connection. You got North Carolina with the Michael Jordan connection. You got Iowa with the B.J. Armstrong.
Wright State ain't got no connection, but there we are, right? You know.
Who's ever played at Wright State? Anybody?
I don't even know, but I don't know. Probably maybe somebody famous. You never know, though. That's one of them. I don't even know how long they've been D1.
Famous alumni of Wright State. Let's see. Nobody that I recognize. I'm sure there's somebody.
Well, I don't know how long they've been D1 either for basketball, because they seem like one of the newer D1 schools. So
a guy named Frank Licklider, former golfer.
Is he related to Todd? Because he might not be very good at golf if he is. But
good question, man. He's well, no, because the goal of golf is to have a low score. So
I guess true.
Todd would probably be pretty good at golf. This does not say if he was related to Todd, but Ray Licklider the second grade. He was a graduate.
Yeah, but it'd be cool to see, and hopefully we can beat Indiana State and just keep this momentum going and give us a little bit, like I said earlier, give us a little bit of things to do before football starts back up. And we got hopefully not yell at TVs as much. I yelled a little bit today because it was fresh, and it's like I feel like if you throw strikes, the game could have been over a little bit easier. But you never know. That's how it happens. So,
yep.
But all right, enjoy your night, and hopefully I'll see you tomorrow night with some good news at least.
All right, James. Appreciate the call, sir. All right, folks. Appreciate everybody being here. Taylor, I think this is Taylor, right? What channel is the game on tomorrow? Please not say ACC Network. It's ESPN Plus, sir. ESPN Plus. And yes, you can get it for like a month at a time. If you have the Disney package, Disney Plus package, you can do that as well. Mike, thank you for being here as well. Reminder, Iowa, Indiana State, the 1-0 game in the Terre Haute Regional tomorrow. That's Saturday, 5 p.m. Central Time, ESPN Plus. The plan is to be back here talking about a win, folks. So be sure to tune in tomorrow evening, hopefully following an Iowa win over the Sycamores. Be sure to subscribe and like this video, and please support our sponsors. And as I brought up before, support the show by signing up for a free trial of Aura, folks. Learn how Aura can protect your information. Visit www.aura.com/Hawkeyes. Again, that's in the description below, www.aura.com/Hawkeyes, to support the show through a free trial of Aura. Also, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at From the Hawkeye of the Storm on Facebook. You can also become a premium subscriber here at From the Hawkeye of the Storm. Click the little join button. You can also shop Amazon with us. There's a link to do that, and merchandise available throughout the entire year from the Hawkeye of the Storm merch. Click the link in the description below. And we'll be back tomorrow, folks, hopefully talking about an Iowa win over Indiana State. Again, the Hawkeyes defeating North Carolina in the Terre Haute Regional 5-4. The Hawkeyes now will face Indiana State, the top seed in the region, tomorrow evening. Have a great Friday night, folks, and we will talk to you on Saturday.